Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're back in AFK Journey, and in today's video we're going to be covering the Pride Win PvP tier list, and I'll leave a link to this website in the description down below if you want to look at this tier list or any other guides they have on the site. It's a really good website for information about AFK Journey. I've been using it for my whole time playing. Also, there are 3 promo codes, which I'll leave in the description of this video and as a pinned comment that you can enter, and in total they give you 400 diamonds and some gold. Anyway, we're going to get right into it. We're not going to go into detail about each hero because then we would be here all day. There's a lot of intricacies with each one, but I'm going to kind of tell you what I see a lot because I'm in the top, I've finished in the top 20 of champion in Arena, and I've seen a lot of late game teams even using Celestial and Hypogean heroes, so I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what people are running in the current meta, and we'll talk about like what heroes do well with which other teammates, but we won't go in depth into each and every one of the skills of each hero because that would take a really long time. And Pride Win, their tier lists are always pretty accurate, so I think we can really take it at face value of what they're saying here and agree with most of it. Unless something is really out of the ordinary, then I will discuss it. Okay, so as for the damage dealers in the S plus tier, they have Arden and Odie. And it's interesting because both of them do almost completely different types of damage. Arden deals AoE damage. He deals more damage when the enemy is controlled for longer, and that's why he does really well in the Iron crowd control team. Because the damage is AoE and there's damage over time, he also offers crowd control in his own kit. He's kind of a utility damage dealer that can get off a lot of damage and also damage over time. Odie is a single target damage dealer, and as for single target damage dealers, he's one of the best in the game, and it's crazy because both of these are A-level heroes and they're at the S plus tier for damage dealers, which you never really expect in most gacha games or even AFK games. But Odie can single target down one enemy hero faster than anyone else because then he can also have the execute based on 5.7 or 6.2 times his poison damage. And that can allow you to kill the first enemy before other heroes would be able to do that. So he works really well in a Mauler type team. If you have, for example, Shakir, maybe Brutus as a tank or Entandra, and you have Odie, you could even run Smokey as a healer and support, and you have like all these Maulers, you're running into a team of preferably Wilders, like the crowd control type teams, and you just survive and kill everything. But Odie has a difficulty surviving. If he gets focused or somehow he gets crowd controlled, he is not going to be that effective. So Odie is pure damage, one enemy at a time. He needs to really kill one enemy really quickly so that he can start moving on to the next enemy and also give your team the 5 versus 4 advantage. Arden can crowd control and deal damage over time. He doesn't need to burst anyone down right away, and because he has a utility of the crowd control, that's why he's like more of the crowd control type team. And then we have Carolina. Carolina is considered a specialist because she has a lot of crowd control and freezes. She also deals a lot of damage, so she could even be in the damage dealer category. She's very similar to Arden. She works really well in a crowd control type team, especially with Iron. Carolina and Arden are some of the best true allies to have with Iron. And so you usually see them run together. But Carolina is a late game arena hero, and she's used in a lot of end game teams. And especially in an Iron crowd control team, you'll almost always see Carolina there as a damage dealing controller. Iron is the best crowd control in the game because he can cast his ultimate immediately once he has his Mythic Plus. And if you upgrade Mythic Plus to plus 10, it's a 6-second AoE immobilization. And so it just powers up Arden's damage more. It allows your heroes to gain the energy advantage because they're immobilized and you can just keep stacking up your energy with your attacks. And so Iron is the key team right now that people are aiming for in the late game is Iron, Arden, Carolina, and then some other members, which we'll carry on and talk about. So Scarlita is the first Hypogean Celestial we see here at S plus tier, and she is S plus tier. She does well. So with the Celestial and Hypogeans, they don't really shine until they're Mythic Plus. Before that, they're not really going to be good options usually to have on your team. Rainier is one of the possibilities you can run before Mythic Plus because he has that the position swap effect, and that is a like on offense, arena offense, you can take advantage of that. But for the most part, heroes do not shine until they're Mythic Plus. So Scarlita does well because she deals true damage. She goes up into the sky. She repeatedly shields your frontline or hero. So if you have a really tanky, sustain heavy team, Scarlita does really well there because she will help the survivability in the beginning of the battle. What she does is she ascends up to above the battlefield, and she drops down after I think 15 or 20 seconds, and then she will begin attacking and trying to knock enemies off the battlefield and deal true damage. So she needs a really tanky team to be effective, but she is the part of some really good stall arena defenses that are unkillable. If they're just really tanky, they have a lot of sustain, and Scarlita's in buffing up, and then Scarlita can come down and finish off your team. But she's not like a burst damage dealer. So that's something to keep in mind. And then we have the supports. Damien is one of the best supports in the game right now, and he does well in the Iron crowd control team because he is a Wilder, so you can get the Wilder faction buff. But Damien gives haste to your allies. He will stun the furthest away enemy, and usually that's going to be a damage carry. He will also deal a pretty good amount of damage. He heals at his Mythic Plus. He's overall a really good support, and even if his Troy Chariot dies, he can spawn it again if the battle goes on long enough. Rainier is a good support. You can use him on offense for the position swap effect. He at Mythic Plus, it's not that important to get him to Mythic Plus. Like for bosses, you want that because then the boss will be taking 25% additional damage. But Rainier at Mythic Plus for PvP, he'll only be your team will deal 25% bonus damage to the targeted enemy, which is not as important. It's mainly for his position swap that is used. I haven't used Rainier that much on offense, and I very rarely see him on defense. He's usually not a good defensive option because you want his positioning to be right. And if, for example, he's on defense, you can position whichever hero you want to be swapped, and so it doesn't have as much effect. So I don't really, in my opinion, I don't think I would put Rainier as a S+ for support. He could be S, but it is niche because I feel like only on offense is he really usable. And even then, I don't think just Rainier is enough to swing the tides of a battle if your team is quite underpowered compared to the opponent. Rowan is a great healer, and mainly not even healer, he's energy generation for your team. And that is really important in PvP, which you probably would have noticed. And there's another thing, like Cecia is down here in A rank, but at this current stage of the game, Cecia is one of the top PvP heroes because getting her crowd control off it can be and if you get it off before the enemy can get off their CC ult, that can be the difference of you winning the game or winning the fight or not. So Rowan allows you to get the energy off for your crowd control mainly is what he does. So like he does really well in crowd control oriented teams or CC teams, and you're going to see him a lot, especially like Lucius, Rowan, Vala, CC. You see those combinations of teams a lot in the arena right now. Thorin is one of the best. He's the best tank in the game. He can deal a massive amount of damage if he gets focused while he's channeling his ultimate, and especially if the enemy is all grouped up close to you and his ultimate basically reaches all of the enemy heroes, he can wipe out a team on his own. But he also has incredible tanking capability. He has a resurrection, and with Soul Pact he will get healed up by your highest damage dealing hero, and also he will come back for a third life. So definitely, yeah, Thorin is an S+ tank. He's really strong in the crowd control Iron team. He's usable in other Graveborn, fully Graveborn teams. And even, for example, like that team we mentioned of Cecia, Rowan, Lucius, and Vala, people can run Thorin there for the 2 Graveborn, 3 Lightbearer effect, and it's a very effective team, and people do. So Thorin is definitely an S+ tier. So as for the S+ tier so far, maybe the only one I don't think I would put there is Rainier. Maybe I just don't have enough experience with him, but I don't think S+ I really feel like are the heroes which you can totally build your team comp around and can win you the battle on their own single-handedly. Anyway, next one we have S rank. So for these Celestial Hypogeans, Diurnal is a part of one of the late game arena PvP teams, but again, like these, you're gonna need a Mythic Plus minimum to be effective, and then ideally all of them to Supreme Plus. So for this stage of the game, unless you're a heavy spender, it's not really like viable to even consider the Celestial Hypogeans in your lineup, other than Rainier on offense, because he can work even before Mythic Plus. But Diurnal is actually one of the top teams in the meta right now, so he might even be in the S plus tier. Like for people who are really heavy spenders, Diurnal, Scarlita teams are insane. He deals AoE true damage and one of the highest damage dealers in the game right now. Florabelle, she can deal a lot of damage, she has crowd control, and for those reasons she will be reasonable or a good option for a team, but I don't see her that much, and I don't think she is right now as strong as Cecia, so I would put Cecia in the S tier. I wouldn't put Cecia in S plus, and the thing is, Cecia is not the best version of crowd control, and for like a late game team, she's not the best option, but she's very viable, and she's used a lot right now, even in teams which are getting top 20 and even top 5 of the arena, champion arena. Sylvina is a great damage dealer because assassins, they can target, like you can place it in a position. So again, she's an offense hero, or you would use on offense, and you could use on defense even if like she's Mythic Plus or Supreme Plus. She is a really hard-hitting damage dealer. She's very difficult to deal with, and because she can get into the backline and focus down a key carry immediately, she's a really good, damage dealer. I would put her in the S tier. Vala as well is kind of similar, S tier hero, because if you have her on offense, you can position her in a way to usually get a lot of value, because normally the opponent's teams are going to have heroes in the backline, which are their key heroes, like maybe a Cecia, maybe Carolina, or heroes they want to have high energy regeneration, and Vala basically denies the energy regeneration of the hero which she is marked. And then Vala can also deal a lot of damage. So Vala does really well in PvP. She's a good damage dealer. Igor is good for a Graveborn sustain type team, or stall out type team. He also deals a lot of damage. You've seen like basically a lot of these heroes which are on the top list are the ones which also shine in Honor Duel, because Honor Duel is a completely PvP based mode where people are on equal footing. So Igor is really good for a Graveborn stall team, and he can be used with like Cecia, Thorin, Carolina, even a fully 5 Graveborn team. Parissa is a very good burst damage dealer, although I would not really recommend her. She probably is fine to be put in the S tier, but the thing is, because you have a lot of wilder heroes which are stronger than her, like Damien, Arden, Iron, usually you're not going to run a full 5 team of wilder, and the meta team right now for PvP is Iron, Damien, Arden, Thorin, Carolina. So there's not really room for Parissa in that team. So even though she is a good burst damage dealer, I don't think she's as good as the other wilder options, and so that's why I guess she's in the S tier, or maybe even I would put her down to like the A tier. Hewen is a really good healer, and she does well in both Graveborn or wilder teams. Again, she does well in crowd control oriented teams, like for example Cecia, or you're trying to stall out a bit, get your crowd control off and slowly damage, or even Arden, damage them over time. So she's a really good option. She's also good in a stall team like the Scarlita team we mentioned to begin with. If you have a Hewen and you have like a really tanky like Granny, for example, then Scarlita does well in those teams as a stall team. Granny is a very strong tank. She's one of the best tanks in the game, but her issue is that she gets hard countered by Odie, because Odie can burst through her by stacking up the poison and executing her. So, and a lot of people will now have like a plus 10 exclusive equipment Odie, usually at Supreme Plus. And so for that reason, I feel like Granny is not the best option as a tank, but she is a very good tank. She has a lot of tanking capability and sustain crowd control as well. So a tank with crowd control is always a nice thing to have. But Thorin, because he can resurrect and deal a massive amount of damage, Thorin just outshines a Granny. Now for the A tier, Brian. So Brian, you don't see that much honestly in Arena. He's pretty, like, he can deal a lot of damage, but I don't see him that much. And out of all the options here, I know Seth in like a Mauler oriented team, like we mentioned, Shakir, Odie, maybe Brutus, Smokey, Seth, that can be an insane team. But for right now, people are not running Seth much, mainly probably because they have other priorities for A-level heroes in the wish list. But late game, Seth at Supreme Plus or even Mythic Plus can be very strong in a Mauler-oriented team. All he needs is one kill to really start ramping up and get going. And so he is a really good option. But Ceccia, I would put above here. I would put in the S plus tier because you see her a lot. She's very effective. She has a crowd control. And a lot of people will have her quite highly ascended. So like you can just throw her into your PvP team. Salazar, Viperian. So Salazar, I don't see that much. I don't know if I would put him in A tier. Viperian is like a burst damage dealer. I do see him in the arena and he is in some top 20 champion teams. He provides the Graveborn for the faction bonus, and he deals a lot of damage as a burst damage dealer. So Temesia, now we have Temesia and Shakira. Now Shakira is niche because he needs to be part of a Mauler team, but in the Mauler team, he's one of actually the best options, and he himself is the reason why the Mauler team actually has viability. And because so many people are running Wilder-oriented teams, because the Wilder heroes are very strong, there's a lot of crowd control, even sustain with Hayo and Granny. Shakira counters them really hardcore, so I would put Shakira in the S plus or S tier, no S plus, maybe even S plus though, because he on his own unlocks the Mauler team. But he's really strong. As exclusive equipment plus 10, along with like Seth and Brutus up in the front line with him, he's pretty insane if he can get his ultimate off without dying. Temesia, you don't see that much, and I don't honestly think that she's one of the best for PvP. She's great for the Dream Realm, and yeah, but we just don't see her that much in PvP. She can keep interrupting enemies, so like she kind of counters Smokey, but the interrupt is not enough for her to like have, like other heroes with greater crowd control are just going to outshine her. So yeah, I think she's well placed in the A tier, but Shakira would go up to S tier in my opinion. Coco is a hero, you know what Coco does, she gives you more basically damage reduction. She gives you the vampire or lifesteal effect for sustainability. She does well in Mauler oriented teams. In the early game, she also can be really good if you have like again like a Thorin, Ceccia, Coco, maybe Smokey, and then whatever other final team. She can give you that survivability, can allow your team, because once if she can use her ultimate, then you have basically that 10 or 12 seconds, however long the ultimate duration is, to kill at least 1 or 2 enemies, and then you have a team, like a number advantage against the opponent. So Coco is good, and even in late game she can be used in PvP because of just her very unique effect of reducing the damage that you take. Smokey Mirki is good as well. He can get interrupted, he can get like, he doesn't like to get crowd controlled especially, and that's why he does belong in the A tier. He's not a top tier hero like for example Rowan, as an energy generation and also the burst of healing for your front line or the damage, the people who take damage with his potions. Smokey Mirki needs like continuous channeling of his skill to be effective, and if he keeps getting interrupted, he's not very effective. So even in a Mauler team, you don't even have to run Smokey. So I think, yeah, Smokey in A tier is a well-placed position. Nero, I don't see that much of. He's a support for Graveborn, and I don't think he's one of the best options. It's usually just better to go without a support and just go for, like, if you want a full Graveborn team, Thorin, Carolina, Igor, Sylvina, and then Ceccia. Something like that would probably be better than Nero. But you can experiment with him, but he is not even a priority for the wish list. You really want Sylvina and Viperian more on the wish list than Nero and Salazar. Antandra and Brutus, so both of these are I think they should be above the A tier. Antandra, you see a lot of in the champion arena because she has an effect of basically giving more tankiness to your frontline ally. She has, if she can cast her ultimate, she can tank damage at way above her power level. She also works well in Mauler oriented teams like with Shakira, Odie, Antandra can be very strong teams. And then you can throw Coco in there as well. And a lot of people, how they use Antandra is they put it in the back line so that if there's an enemy who's trying to use Vala, Vala will just target the Antandra and you basically protect your backline damage dealers from that. So Antandra is good. And also Antandra can tank the purple spell that everyone uses, which immobilizes the 2 backline enemies. for 2.5 seconds. I forgot the name of that artifact, but a lot of people use that. So they use Entendre in the backline for that reason. Brutus is good in the Mauler team, like we said with Shakir. So I think both Brutus and Entendre I would move to the S tier. Brutus, like, I mean, in PvE and AFK stages, he's one of the best. In Arena, he's not as good because, like, that 5 seconds of tanking damage is not too important. You want heroes which are going to last longer than even 5 seconds. But with Shakir getting off his ultimate, like, Brutus can enable Shakir to get off his ultimate by tanking all the initial damage. Shakir can cast his ultimate, you can have a bit of healing, and then Brutus can survive due to the damage reduction of Shakir's ultimate. Something like that is really strong. Okay, now we're moving down to the low ranking tier. And this, again, I'm just going to talk about what I don't agree with here. Okay, as for the damage deals and the specialists, yes, these heroes are not good in Arena. Maybe Cassidy and Leica. Cassidy and Leica seem like they could be good options. Maybe even Reese. All three of these, because Reese can deal like splash damage. He can run around the map, which is kind of interesting, like in a Mauler team, if you can just have all your heroes jumping in there and Reese attacking from the back. It might be not a bad option. Leica has the haste for your team. Some defense reduction. Cassidy can power up your team and reduce the magic defense of the enemy team if she can cast her ultimate. But I guess the problem with Cassidy is you need her to cast her ultimate before she really becomes effective. She also has some crowd control with undertow ability. So yeah, I think Cassidy might be up to the A tier. Leica as well, probably up to the A tier. Reese maybe to the A tier as well, but I haven't experimented much with these heroes. The other ones, I've never seen them and I don't recommend them. Merrily and Corrin, they're great. They're the best boss killers, but they're terrible in Arena. I mean, Corrin, like with the shields, you would think maybe he has some potential to be good, and I think he could have some effectiveness, better than Merrily. Merrily would probably be in the C tier, honestly. But yeah, Lucius should be above here. Lucius should go up to the A tier at least. You see a lot of Lucius, mainly because of like the faction. A lot of people run Rowan, they run Vala if they have Vala at Mythic Plus, or even if they don't have Vala and they're just running Rowan plus Lucius for the Lightbearer faction. It's a very strong team. Lucius, when he can cast his shield, it's really good. Again, you can place Lucius in the back line to take the Vala aggro if the opponent is trying to Vala you to protect your carries, and also you can take the artifact spell that we talked about, which was targeting the backline heroes. So Lucius, I think, would be above here. He's a really good option. Then you have the absolute C tier. Yeah, none of these heroes. Well, Satrana, I don't agree with. I don't know how you pronounce your name. She is, again, she's a strong option for PvP for the Mauler team in the late game if you have her ascended. Same with Seth. She is a pretty good option. But she's not a focus by any means, and I am going for Seth rather than Satrana for my Mauler team that I'm eventually going to try to build, because I feel like Seth is going to be overall stronger, especially if you can get one kill, he can just like snowball. But Satrana is not, yeah, I don't think she's C tier, but she is not one of the best options. Maybe she could go up to B tier or above. And Lumont, I never really see Lumont at all, other than like in the early stages of even Honor Duel, and that's usually also a sign when a hero is bad, if you only see them in the early stages when people have no other options, and then they soon get replaced. But Lucius, I think, is good. And then out of this B tier, Lucius is the one which should deserve a tier bump the most. And out of the A tier, Cisia, Shakir, Brutus and Entendre, I think, should be bumped up to the higher tier because they are seen a lot and they're very effective. So we've basically covered the PvP tier list. Now, if you just want some teams that you can target, the crowd control team is Iron, Damien, Arden, Thorin, Carolina, using all the S+ heroes. So that's one of the top meta teams in the game right now. But if you don't have any of them, for example, I don't have Arden and Damien at Mythic Plus, so I'm not using them. I'm using Thorin, Iron, and Carolina, but then I'm using Rowan as well because he's one of the top heroes for energy regeneration, and then I'm using Cisia for another way of crowd control. But you could also do a, and then you also have the 3 Graveborn faction. So that's kind of important to get that faction bonus, because faction bonuses, you really want to aim for at least 3 of a type, because then you get the 10% bonus. Because if you have not even 3 of a type, then you're getting a 0% bonus, which If you have amazing heroes, like the best heroes and have a lot of synergy, then the bonus doesn't matter, but 10% if you can try to get it, you should. So you see that, so that's the team I'm running, which is like a version of the crowd control team. Other teams you can see are really sustain heavy teams like Granny, Haywin, Arden, Damien, Iron. That's a full Wilder team, so that's really susceptible to maulers. So probably you wouldn't see that team that much. But Floribel also does well in sustain heavy teams where there's no chance of like the front line dying, because she can then get her summons off and get off her damage, get off her crowd control. So she does that. Vala you see a lot, probably because of the initial banner, but Vala is a good PvP hero, especially because on offense you can like kind of target one of the backline heroes and basically take them out of the fight, because that mark makes it so that they can't really cast their ultimate. So people run like Vala, Rowan, Lucius, and then 2 Graveborns, for example. You see that team a lot. Or they run 3 Graveborns, Vala plus Rowan, which is probably even a better version, because Lucius is not a top option, but if you don't have anything better, he is a good option. He's not bad. He's just like Antandra. Both are good options for PvP, especially if you have some Ascension into them. So you see that a lot. Graveborn, full 5 Graveborn stall team can be Ego, Thorin, Carolina. You always want to have in Graveborn. Then probably Cecia, Sylvina is what I would recommend. Or maybe one like healer like Rowan and then Cecia, for example. You could do something like that. For the Mauler team, that is going to be Shakir, Odie, Brutus usually. And then you can kind of mix and match. You could go for Seth if you have Ascensions, or you could go in Tandra Coco and have a lot of tankiness. But basically the idea is that you want to get Shakir. Shakir would need Mythic Plus for this team to work. You cast Shakir's ultimate that has damage reduction for allies within 2 tiles, and if you have a lot of melee heroes, they're all going to be grouped up together. You're going to have all that damage reduction, and if he's at plus 10 exclusive equipment, he has a attack buff for all of those heroes as well. So really for the optimal like Mauler team, you will want a plus 10 exclusive equipment Shakir, but it's not like a priority, so you shouldn't be focusing this. And all this PvP stuff, these are basically just teams you can put together with whatever heroes you have, just to do a little bit better in PvP. But don't focus your temporal essences on upgrading the exclusive equipment of these heroes until your Dream Realm teams are totally sorted, meaning that you have Rainier Mythic Plus, all the Mythic Plus on this essential heroes. You have like minimum plus 10 on exclusive equipment of OD, Marilee, plus 8 on Corrin, plus 10 on Cassidy. Then you can start giving temporal essences to these heroes, in my opinion, because the PvP will not net you as good rewards as the Dream Realm right now. Maybe when new PvP modes come out, like with the new season, things will change, but for right now, arena PvP is not the top priority. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, because we upload daily AFK journey content. And let me know what you thought of this type of video, because we can do more of these tier list videos in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. And until then, everyone, peace out for now.